today's all right, so welcome to today's masterclass. And here we are going to, be looking at how to manage requirements with JIRA as a business analyst or as an agile project manager. All right, so just before I, actually kickstart this session, before we start, I want to also take a moment to, I just want us to take a moment to invite people that we feel might benefit from this session in one way or the other. All right. So if you have a colleague, if you have a sister, if you have a brother, if you have, your husband, your friend, your best friend, anybody at all that is trying to get into business analysis, is trying to get into project management, but they don't know where to start. They don't know what exactly it entails. They don't know what the opportunities are in the job market, whether they're in the US, whether they're in UK, whether they're in Canada. I want us to share the link with these people. All right, share the session, share the link to the session with them, and let's try to get them on the call. All right. So I'm going to introduce myself in a bit, but I also want to get to know you first. All right. So I want us to put in the chat, what your name is and where you're joining us from. So you can just put your first name and, where you're joining us from. Let's get to know each other. Let's start to, network. So I'm going to be looking in the chat box to see. It's very quiet. I can see we have about 13 people on the call. So I want to know where you're joining us from and what your name is. I can see Sademi from Port Harcourt. Thank you. That's Port Harcourt, Nigeria. I want to see more before we can actually start this session. So I like to interact. This session has to be very interactive. We have Adedayo from the UK. Fantastic. Welcome, Adedayo. One more person. One more person. We have Setlin from the UK, Justine from the UK as well, and we have Frederick from Canada. Wonderful. So we have people from, different parts of the world on this session with us today. Fantastic. All right. So before we actually also just start, I want, to just know who are we here at Analytics and how are we able to do exactly what it is that we do. All right. So Analytics is a leading edtech, educational technology company that is focused on providing specialized training in technology skills and also delivering comprehensive data consulting services. So not only are we in the educational aspect of things, but we are also a consulting company. Now, for the past, almost 5 years, we have spent that time building talent for the technology workforce. Right, we've helped over 3,000 people, transition from the classroom into their first job in tech across, the UK, US, Canada, Europe, Africa, and also Asia. All right, so now we are committed to making the technology sector more accessible for people of the minority group. So especially for we Blacks, through premium training in data analytics, business analysis, data engineering, data science, financial analytics, HR analytics, agile project management and Scrum Master professional, cybersecurity, and soon to come AI engineering. Now we have a team of wonderful, wonderful, wonderful instructors from leading global companies like PwC, McKinsey, Amazon, Microsoft, and the rest of them. And these facilitators bring a wealth of real-world experience, and they're very dedicated to delivering an engaging and practical learning experience that would ensure that when you trust us with your money, you actually receive the maximum value from your investment with us in the future. All right. Last year, October 2024, we actually got into the Alberta Catalyzer Velocity Program. Now, I want us to, fill the feedback form, fill the form that would be put in the chat box by my colleague, the attendance form, put in your details, because this session, as you can see, is being recorded. Now, in order for you to get the recording of this session and also have access to this wonderful slide that I'm using, where we have a lot of resources linked, we need to have your details. That's the only way we can send it across to you. All right. So if you're interested in getting, the details for this session, the recording and the slides as well, what you need to do is just fill the form that will be dropped by my colleagues, at intervals in the chat box. Just make sure that you fill the form and we are going to do the rest. All right. Now, if this is your first time joining a 10 Analytics Masterclass session, please put a 1 in the chat box. If this is your second time, put a 2 or put a 3. I want to know the OGs that we have on this session tonight. So if this is your first time, just put a 1. And if it's your second time, Pretty Damsel says 7. One, fantastic. Jules says 1. Welcome, Jules. Sethlin says 3. Okay, one more person. Let's see. Just put a number in the chat. Samuel says 5. So we actually have original, OGs in this session tonight. That's nice to know. So like I said, if you stay with us till the end of the session, you'll be able to get access to the slides and also the recording of the session. All right. So just do not forget to fill the link to the attendance form that my colleagues will be dropping in the chat box. All right, so who is this person that has been speaking to you for the past 6 minutes? My name, like I mentioned earlier, is Elizabeth Nana, and I am a product manager and a senior agile project manager here at Analytics with half a decade of experience in both product and project management. All right, I'm a leader and a coach for agile teams, and I've been able to consistently drive impactful results. All right, I have successfully guided over 1,000 individuals with no prior agile experience. That is very important to note. Over 1,000 individuals with no prior experience into making a smooth transition into project management. Now, I've trained people from across different continents, and my experience also spans multiple sectors, including the health technology sector, the financial technology sector, and also, of course, the educational technology sector. All right, so enough about me. As we continue this session, you get to know me more. Now, let's get right to the crux of the matter. All right, what are we here to do today? So first off, we're going to be learning how to write user stories on JIRA. So this is going to be a very, very practical class. So I want to make sure that every single one of us here, is paying attention. Just lend me your ears for the next 1 hour. All right, so you'll be learning how to write user stories on JIRA. I'll be walking you through the pathway to actually becoming an agile project manager and also a business analyst. I'll walk you through the Analytics Growth Internship Program, and also, if you stay with us till the end of the session, our special discount offer to you. All right, now we already know what the topic is, how to manage requirements using JIRA, whether you are a business analyst or a project manager. Now, this session is not to come and say, oh, business analysts are better than project managers, or this session is not to come and do a deep dive into what these two roles are. All right, now we're not even going to, do a deep dive into requirements, because I had a session last month on everything you need to know about requirements gathering, whether you're a business analyst or a project manager. So what you want to do is make sure to go to our YouTube, the YouTube channel, and access that video as well. So now we want to understand, why exactly is it important, to gather requirements in Agile? Now, a lot of people often, make the mistake or make this assumption to say, because we say we are Agile, because we say we would like to get things done fast and on time, it means no documentation. And that is very wrong. Agile does not mean no documentation. What Agile means is just enough documentation for action. So what it simply says is, you don't have to wait till you have a 50-page document or a 100-page document to start the work. If you need 5, get the 5 done and start the work immediately, while we keep working on the rest of the documentation. That is simply what it means in Agile. And when we talk about requirements are really what we need to get from, our business stakeholders, maybe our end users, whoever it is that we're serving in that project. We need to understand exactly what it is that they want from us. All right, now we're heading the team. As a project manager, you're in charge of the team, but you need to understand, what does my client want? All right, what does my user want, or what do my users want? And that's where requirements come in. So this is where you have to gather requirements. You have to interview these people, have meetings with these people, speak to them on what exactly it is they want, and document it, so you understand exactly what the ask is. What do we need these people to do? It's like, planning a birthday party, for example, or planning to give a colleague of yours a birthday gift. Now, you need to know what this person likes. You need to know what this person is allergic to, so you don't waste your money. Imagine going to buy maybe a black bag, to surprise your colleague with. Your colleague is having a birthday party, or, your colleague's birthday is coming soon, and you're just trying to surprise this person. You buy this person a black bag, and, the next day, before you give this person the gift, maybe her birthday is next week, you actually see her come to work carrying an exact replica of that bag you just bought. Now, you already know, it goes without saying that, if you give her that gift, in as much as she's going to be appreciative, it's not really something that is going to be useful to her because she already has that bag. And you're like, let me think of what else I can do. Okay, you know what? Let me get her chocolate. And then you go ahead and get her chocolate. And then you find out later that she's actually allergic to chocolate. Now, you can't give somebody a gift, that they're allergic to. Again, you have wasted your money. You have to think, what else would she like? Now, all of this could have been avoided if you had just done, a little bit of detective work. If you're just trying to find out, what does this person like? What does this person need? Maybe she needs a laptop charger. Maybe she needs a new laptop bag. If you had tried to find out, you would have not needed to waste your money getting her a bag that she already has, or getting her something that she's allergic to. And that's exactly what requirements gathering, means when it comes to projects, handling projects as a project manager or as a business analyst. And what do requirements help us with? They help to align business goals with development. So we're able to understand exactly what it is that the business needs. What does this organization need from us, and what do we need to develop? Now, it also helps to prevent rework and missed expectations. So just like I mentioned earlier, it helps to prevent you spending your money unnecessarily, buying a bag that this person already has, buying something that the person is allergic to. If you had just done that detective work, if you had gathered your requirements, you'd have been able to find out exactly what it is, and you'd have just needed to buy one birthday gift without having to waste your money. So it's similar in project management. It's similar in handling a project as a business analyst to prevent, having to work on something, or maybe you've been working on something for the past 2 months, and later you find out that, the stakeholders, this is not what they want. So what happens to all the work that has been done in the past 2 months? You have to go back and start afresh. So requirements help to prevent this rework and also missed expectations. Requirements help to provide clarity for estimation and planning, because again, remember, you'll be getting the requirements, not your entire team. Now it's on you to translate these requirements to the team members. So if you have the requirements, if you know exactly what it is that these people want, of course, you are able to now break it down to your team members. But if you don't, you will not be able to provide that clarity that they need when it comes to estimation, even for yourself, when it comes to planning how that project is going to run. If you don't have the requirements, it's going to be very hard for you. And finally, requirements help to track progress across iterations. Now, I want us to know, if there's nothing that you take away from this session tonight, I want you to take this away. Poorly written requirements would cause delivery delays, would equal to missed scope, and also frustration. You're going to be very frustrated. Take it from me. If you don't write or document your requirements properly, you are going to be frustrated. But the good news is that's why we're here in this session tonight. So you're going to learn how to translate these requirements, how to document requirements properly, and then translate it for the development team to work on. So just stick with me till the end. All right. Now, as a business analyst or a project manager, there are 4 different types of requirements that you will handle. All right, we have the 4 of them on my screen here. I'm going to list them out, explain what they mean, and also give you an example of the requirement. So the first type of requirements is what we call the business requirements. And this really just means the high-level business outcomes. What does the company want? What is the company aiming to achieve with this project or this initiative? What exactly is it that they want to do? For example, maybe this is an educational technology company and they have an LMS, for example, a platform where they have videos where students can go and watch videos, or have courses and students can go and, complete these courses and all of that. And we can say a high-level business outcome or a business requirement for this organization could be increase course completion rate by 20% in the next quarter. So maybe now at the end of Q2, quarter 2, they have seen that their course completion rate is at 40% or at maybe 20%, and they're trying to increase it to 40% for the next quarter. That is a high level, business requirement. This is what the business aims to achieve with the project. Now, another type of requirement is the stakeholder requirements. Now, these are specific needs from users, from executives, or from departments in the organizations. Specific needs. For example, students want to be able to pause and resume their video lessons without losing progress. What this means is, as a student, you're watching your videos, you get a call or you need to do something. You want to be able to pause that video, do what you need to do, and come back and play the video and just continue from where you stopped instead of starting all over again. Now, you see the difference between this requirement and the first one. The first one is a high-level requirement, but this one is a specific need. We've been able to identify who our users are. In this case, the users are students, and now what exactly it is they want. So this helps to provide clarity in what the development team is going to work on. Next, we have what we call solution requirements. And for solution requirements, we have two types. We have the functional requirements, which means what the system should do, how the system should function. And then the non-functional requirements, which means how the system should perform. So an example of the functional requirements, we say the system should send a confirmation email after user registration. Now, what this means is once a user registers, we're saying that they should get a confirmation email. They should get an email in their inbox confirming that, they have been able to register for that program. That is a functional requirement. That is what we want the system to do. Now, when we talk about non-functional requirements, we say the platform must load within 3 seconds on mobile devices. Now, this is how we want the system to perform. We're telling the developers now that we want this platform to load within 3 seconds, not 5 seconds, not 10 seconds, not 30 seconds, but 3 seconds, right? This is also to help. I mean, imagine you trying to access a site and then the site just keeps loading and loading and loading. You're going to drop off because you're going to get tired. So now we're saying this is how we want this system to perform. That is an example of a non-functional requirement. And finally, we have what we call transition requirements. I mean, just like the name suggests, transitioning when you're moving from, using one particular system to a new system in that organization. For example, data migration, training, having to train staff on how to use a new type of system or, how to roll out a new type of system. For example, let's say we already have an old LMS that we're using and we built a new one that is better and faster and, just better in all ramifications. And, we want to now move the data of our students, our existing students from that old platform to the new platform. Now, an example of such a requirement would be to migrate 5,000 existing users into the new LMS before we launch. All right. That's an example of a transition requirement. Another example when it comes to training is provide onboarding training for all tutors between the platform, before the platform switch. So what this means is we have a new platform now and we have tutors. We need to teach them how to use it. We need to teach the tutors how to actually use the platform before, we switch. So we don't just switch and then nobody knows how to operate the new platform. We actually need to provide training on how these tutors can, use the new platform. Now, this is an example of a transition requirement. So if you have been following me so far, if I've been making sense, I want you to drop, a letter, a number, an emoji in the chat, just so I know that I have people listening to me. All right. Just put an emoji, put anything in the chat. It could be a punctuation mark. I just want to know that people are currently listening to me right now. Thank you so much, Gloria. Okay, thank you, Pretty Damsel. Thank you, Sethly and Adida. You're fantastic. So nobody has fallen asleep. I'm not boring. That's what it means. Thank you so much. So now moving on. What is that core skill that makes agile project managers and business analysts shine? Remember, we are not going to be writing the code. We're not the ones writing the code. When we talked about the LMS, the students want to be able to pause and resume their videos. The students want to do this and do that. The system shall send a confirmation email. We're not the ones doing this, okay? But what is our job and why are we so important in every single team? Why does writing user stories matter? Now, agile project managers and business analysts don't write code, like I mentioned earlier. They translate business needs into clear actionable user stories that developers can build from. And that's why we're here today, to understand how you can translate requirements, right, into user stories that the developers can start to work on. Now, your unique advantage as a non-coder is your ability to understand what the business needs and also what your users need. What's the perspective of this user? How does this user see this particular product, right? That is your unique advantage. That is your superpower. And this is what's going to help you to write vertical that are input and also end with the project goals. So what is the connection? User stories are the ultimate tool. Like I said, really just think of it as your superpower. For agile project managers and business analysts, if you don't know how to write user stories, I mean, that's like foundation level. If you don't know how to write user stories as an agile project manager or as a business analyst, whatever project it is that you work on will suffer. All right. User stories help us to collaborate effectively with the tech team and also ensure that the product meets user and business needs. Now, let's talk about mastering user stories as an agile project manager or as a business analyst. Now, we can't start talking about user stories without talking about the Scrum framework. We can't start talking about the Scrum framework without talking about agile methodologies. All right. So we hear a lot, a lot of people hear, oh, agile. What exactly is this agile? All right. What are the agile methodologies? What is the principle of agile? What exactly does agile stand for? And what is the difference between agile and Scrum? Okay. Now that is a bonus tip I'm just going to be sharing. It's not part of what I was supposed to share on this session, but I'll share it with you anyways. Okay. So now, oh, I can see some questions in the chat. And I can see Ianolua. Thank you so much for responding to the question about the LMS. Thank you so much for that. All right. So now let's talk about Agile. Now, the key principle or the key value of Agile is, continuous iterations, being able to deliver on time, being able to break down a big chunk of work, and deliver bit by bit. So being able to deliver part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4, and so on and so forth. So you have, for example, a very big project that you're handling. For example, building the learning management system, like I just mentioned, the LMS, learning management system. A couple of us have registered for courses online. There are lots of online courses out there that I don't want to mention names, where you register and then you pay for a course and you have access to videos, and that you can start watching, etc. That is an LMS, all right? That's a learning management system. Now, to build that looks like a huge project, but we need to break it down if we want to work the agile way, all right? So we break it down and say, you know what, let's work on a feature to allow people create an account, right? Let's work on a feature to allow people create an account first. Now, after working on that feature, now let's work on a feature to allow people log in, because, after creating an account, the next thing you do is to log in with your credentials, correct? So let's work on a feature that will allow people to log in. Now, after working on that, let's work on a feature that will allow people to see their dashboard after they log in. So you see how you have broken down this huge project bit by bit, little things for the developers to work on, and you'll be able to see the visible progress. For example, once they are done working on the feature to allow people to sign up or create an account, you can test it. You can try to create an account and see if the account gets created, and then they work on a feature to allow people log in, and then you can test it as well. The credentials from creating an account, you try to use it to log in, and then it works, and you're like, okay guys, this works, let's move on to the next. That is basically what Agile tries to do. Break down these huge projects, right, into little chunks of work that, the developers can work on independently. Now, we talk about the Scrum framework. The Scrum framework is one of the frameworks under Agile. Now, this is where a lot of people mix it up, Sometimes in interviews, I've also had, a couple of interviews when I've been asked, what is the difference between Agile and Scrum? Now, that's a trick question, all right? And that's why I said it's bonus information that I'm just going to be sharing here today. That is a trick question. Agile and Scrum are not different. What you just need to know is that Scrum is one of the frameworks under the Agile methodology. So I want you to think of Agile as a tree that has plenty different branches. Think of your mango tree. Just close your eyes and think of a tree, any type of tree at all, that has different branches. Now, Scrum is one of those branches on the Agile tree. So what that means is, of course, the other branches signify other frameworks. They are under other frameworks under the Agile methodology, but Scrum is just one of them. So it's not like Scrum is different from Agile. Scrum is under Agile. That's something that a lot of people, mix up. Now let's talk about the Scrum framework. The Scrum framework is a framework within which people can address, complex adaptive problems while productively and creatively delivering products of the highest possible value. Forget all of this English. It's exactly what I explained before. Being able to address a big project, right? Address that big project, break it down into chunks, and make sure that you're being productive. You're delivering products and it's of the highest possible value to your clients. Now, the word Scrum, when you hear Scrum, it comes from sports, right? So you hear about rugby, where the players are huddled together in an interlocked position. For some of us that are sports fanatics on this call, and then they're pushing against their opponents. Now, each player has a defined role in their position. Let's even forget about rugby. Let's talk about football, even though I'm not very well versed in football. I'm not a football fan, but I know you have your mid defender and your, the different people that have different roles. For people that watch football here, help me out in the chat, okay? Help me out in the chat, your defender, your striker, your goalkeeper, and so on and so forth. That is a defined role. Each person has a defined role in their position, and they can either play offensive or they can play defensive as per the demand of the situation. Now, the Scrum framework has 3 roles, 3 artifacts, and 5 events. And sometimes it's called the 3-5-3 or the 3-3-5 framework. Again, think about football. When we watch football, you hear formation 4-4-5, formation 5-5-7, or whatever. Those formations, that's the exact same thing that is happening here. Scrum has its own formation. The 3-3-5 or the 3-5-3, anyone you want to call it, it means the same thing. So 3 roles, 5 events, and 3 artifacts. The 3 roles in Scrum, the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the team members. Those are the 3 roles in Scrum: the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the team members. And then for the 3 artifacts, we have what we call the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the product increment. So not to worry, in coming slides, I'm also going to explain what these mean, right? And then for the 5 events, we have your sprint planning, your daily Scrum or your daily stand-up, your sprint review, your sprint retrospective, and also your backlog refinement. So that is what makes up this framework, the 3-5-3 or the 3-3-5 framework. All right. Now let's look at what the Scrum framework looks like. This is just an overview. I've been talking about the theory. Now we're getting into, the practical aspect of it all. What does the Scrum framework look like? An overview. Now you see right here on my screen, we have a list of potential software changes. Basically, we have a list of things that we want to do, all right? We have a list of things that we are trying to do for this particular project. Imagine you are planning a wedding. You have a list of things you want to do. You want to hire a caterer, you want to hire maybe an event planner, you want to look for wedding dresses, get designers that are going to design the traditional wedding dress, and so on and so forth. All right, that is what you have here, a list of every single thing that you want to do. Now, it translates into what we call the product backlog. The product backlog is a list of every single thing that you want to do for that wedding. Oh, you want to serve 7 dishes, you want to send out invitations, you want to pick the wedding colors, purple and cockroach brown, magenta yellow and sky blue, and so on and so forth. You want to speak to the caterer, you want to go cake tasting, every single thing that you want to do. It's almost like, when you're trying to move into a new apartment, for example, and you have a list of all the things that you want to buy in that apartment. Oh, I need to buy a new refrigerator, I need to buy a new mattress, I need to buy a new set of pots, new cutleries, and so on and so forth. Every single thing that you need for your new apartment is written in a list. Now that list is what we call the product backlog. And then we now take a look at the sprint backlog. Now, the sprint backlog is gotten from the product backlog. Sprint backlog literally just means the one that we are going to commit to for the sprint. All right. So again, using the house analogy, I'll explain. So you have a list, let's say you have a list of 70 things that you want to buy for your new house. Now you agree with me, I mean, because of the economy, you can't buy all 70 at once. So you might have to pick the most important one. Maybe you are like, you know what, I'm going to get paid on the 30th of June. So once I get my next paycheck, I'm going to pick 5 things from my list that I'm going to buy. I'll buy 5 things this month end, and next month end, I'll buy another 5. Right? Now, those 5 things, you go into your product backlog and you look at the list, the 70 things that you have listed, and you pick 5 important things. And you say, these 5 things are the things I am going to buy next month. Now, that is what makes up your sprint backlog. Your sprint backlog is what you are committing to from your product backlog. So you pick out your sprint backlog, the items on your sprint backlog from your product backlog. Are we good so far? Give me a thumbs up if we're following. Very important that we understand this before we move into JIRA. Give me a thumbs up. I'm looking in the chats. All right. Thank you, Sethleen. Anyone else? Am I making sense so far? Thank you so much, Gloria. Fantastic. Thank you, Ayobami. Wonderful. So now we have established that you get your sprint backlog from your product backlog, the number of things that you are going to commit to. So you have a list of all the things that you need to do in this project, but we're saying, okay, in the next 2 weeks, this is what we want to do for the next 2 weeks. 5 tasks or 10 tasks out of 200 tasks in the product backlog. So being able to prioritize and pick what is most important and knowing exactly what the capacity of your team is, okay? You're not claiming that, you know what, I'm the best product manager or I'm the best project manager, I have the best team, I'm the best business analyst, so we're going to do all 70 at once. It's not possible, all right? So you just want to pick the most important 5 or the most important 10, and that is what makes up your sprint backlog. And now from your sprint backlog, we have what we now call product increments. And product increments simply means what gets done, okay? So now, yes, you have picked 10 things and put it in your sprint backlog, but sometimes, life could happen and maybe the prices of things change based on the budgets that you had. You are not able to buy 10 things, you're only able to buy 8 or you're able to buy 7. That is what we call the product increments. Yes, you set out to buy 10. Right? 10 was in the sprint backlog, but we were only able to buy 8. Now that 8 is what actually got done. We put 10 tasks in our sprint backlog that we're going to do. We're going to build the login screen. We're going to build the, creating accounts and so on and so forth. But we were only able to do 8. We didn't complete it. Now that 8 is what we call the product increments. And remember, because Agile, we break down work into smaller chunks and then we work in what we call sprints, which is basically time boxed. So to say, for the next 2 weeks, this is what we're going to be working on. For the next 1 month, this is what we're going to be working on. That is a sprint. And that's what you work on. That's where you work on your sprint backlog. Now, anything could happen. Some things that we didn't plan for could happen and we will not be able to complete all of that in this sprint. What we completed is our product increments, and that is what translates to shippable software. Now, the remaining tasks that we didn't complete, we move it to the next sprint and we repeat the cycle all over again. So for the next sprint, we go into the product backlog, we pick out maybe 5 more tasks, add it to the sprint backlog, the remaining 2 that we didn't complete the last time, work on everything, ship it out there. That's the product increment. And we go back and start the cycle all over again. So that is basically what the Scrum framework does. Breaks down the huge projects into smaller, manageable chunks. All right. Now let's move on. So very soon, we're going to move over to JIRA because like I promised, this is going to be a very practical class, but let's just do a very brief introduction to JIRA. All right. So now we've established that the product backlog lists all the work that needs to be done on that project. The product owner is responsible for the product backlog, including its contents, its availability, and also priority ordering. So what this means is as the business analyst or as the project manager, in charge of that project, you would be serving in the capacity of a product owner, and you are responsible for the product backlog. So you see why it's very important for us to learn about this. As a business analyst or as a project manager, you are responsible for the product backlog. Now, one thing I want us to have at the back of our minds is that a product backlog is never complete. Because remember, it's a list of all the things we want to do in a project. Little things keep coming up. Today, they say, oh, you know what? AI is raining. You know, I took a look at Meta. Meta has integrated AI. Instagram, we have AI on Instagram, Meta AI, we have AI on WhatsApp. Let's also do AI on our application. And that goes on the product backlog, right? And then later, 2 months later, something else is raining, something else is trending. And we say, you know what, if we try to integrate this in our products, it's going to make a lot of sense. And we go in there and we put it in our product backlog again. So it's never complete, it never ends. But just know that you need to, just be ticking tasks off the boxes, okay? Just keep ticking those boxes off. Now, this is what your JIRA backlog looks like, okay? Very soon we're going to see it live, but this is what your products backlog would look like on JIRA. Okay, so sorry about that. I must have clicked on a new link. So let's close that up and just continue. Now, let's talk about epics, features, and user stories, because these are also things that you need to understand, in the Scrum framework. What are epics? What are features? And what are user stories? So epics represents multiple features or many stories. Think of epics as a huge body of work, what you want to do, the overall goal of the project. For example, let's say we want to build a house, right? An epic would be build my dream house. I want to build a 3-bedroom bungalow, or I want to build a skyscraper, right? That's an epic, the overall goal. Your epic can take months to build, and it works at the release level. And your epic is what the end users tend to focus on. For example, the way I said you want to build your dream house. That is what you focus on as the homeowner. You don't care about, oh, it's going to have black tiles. What you are focused on is my dream home. That is the huge body of work that we need to work on. That is an epic. Then when we talk about features, a feature is smaller than an epic, but bigger than user stories. And features can take weeks, possibly 1 or more iterations to build. And features are what the customers or the product owners tend to focus on. Now, using our house analogy, yes, we said I want to build my dream home, but remember, when we talk about Agile, we talk about breaking down work into smaller, manageable chunks, right? So instead of tackling a project and saying, I want to build this house, we have now broken it down to see the different features of the house. For example, build a kitchen, install the roof, construct the roof, paint the walls, install plumbing, like all the plumbing pipes, install electrical fixtures, and so on and so forth. Those are features. Now, you can see that it is still related to the epic being build my dream home. Now, of that dream home are, the kitchen, a smart kitchen, a beautiful bedroom, a state-of-the-art bathroom, and so on and so forth. Those are your features. They're smaller than epics, but they're still larger than tasks. They're still larger than individual tasks. Now, you still want to break down those features to something that your developers can start working on, and they'll probably finish in a few days, right? So now let's take one of those features, for example. I mentioned building a smart kitchen is a feature. Now, when we talk about our user story, we say our user stories are the smallest increment of value. It could take days, perhaps a week or 2 at most to build. And this is what the development team focuses on. This is what the constructors or the bricklayers in that your house focus on. So now I want to throw it to the house just to make sure that we understand everything I've been saying so far. So I've said that an example of a feature is building a smart kitchen. Now, what are some of the tasks you think would be in that smart kitchen? What are some of the things that you like to see? Think about your kitchen. What are some of the to see in your kitchen that you tell anybody, your what's it called now, your contractor, that, oh, this is how I want my kitchen to look. I want my kitchen to have this, this, and this. Let me see in the chats. What are some of the things that you would like to see in your kitchen, in a smart kitchen? Heat extractor. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Adedayo. Gloria says smart cooking gas with heavens. Wonderful. Patience says cabinet, gas hob, fantastic. Motion sensing features, wonderful. So that when you come into the kitchen, you don't have to, turn on lights. It just senses the motion and the lights come on. Beautiful. You see, so it's very easy. In as much as a lot of these things look complex, that is what, your user stories are. Yinka says smart fridge. Adex says electric heater. What it just shows is, it shows that, a lot of people are actually listening to me, speak right now. And that makes me feel good. Okay. So that is exactly what, the user stories are. Those little tasks that we can decide to, okay, go to the market today and buy a smart refrigerator. We can decide to go to the market today and buy, the heat extractor and then come back and install it. Those little tasks that you can assign and say, you know what, pretty damsel, you're going to the market, you buy the fridge. Adex, you buy the, what's it called now? The heat extractor. Someone else is going to install the cabinets and so on and so forth. Now, these are the little things that the development team focuses on and works on that, little by little, step by step, brick by brick, it translates into the smart kitchen, which is the feature. And then, of course, later translates into the overall epic, which was to build the dream home for that homeowner. Now, one thing that I want us to know is that, when we write user stories, we write it from the perspective of the end user. So you never say, my name is Elizabeth and I'm the project manager, and I want this application to look like this because I like pink. You never do that. You want to first off identify who is going to be using your products. Who is the person that we are making this product for? Who is the person that we are building this project for? Maybe you're building a mobile application, for example. Who is going to be using it? Now you can see this image on my screen. We have a mother carrying a baby. All right. Now we're saying, for example, hypothetically, we want to build, a nanny cam for people in the, people in the chat right now that don't know what a nanny cam is. It's basically a little camera if you have a child, if you have a baby, that you put in your baby's room, especially for people that live in the western part of the world where you don't sleep beside your baby. Your baby has a room. There's a crib, you put your baby in that room, and then you put a small camera. It could be on the ceiling, it could be on a teddy bear, whatever, so that, that camera is then connected to your phone, so that wherever you are in the house, right? You could be in the kitchen making breakfast. You want to know when your baby wakes up. So you're able to see what is happening in that, in that baby's room. That's a nanny cam. So let's assume that we're building a nanny cam. The very first step would be to identify who is the person that is going to be using this nanny cam. Is it a bricklayer? Is it a teacher? Or is it a parent? All right. You define who your end user is. For example, as a parent, you don't say as a project manager, oh, as Elizabeth, I'm the one working on the project, so I'm going to build everything from my perspective. No, you want to identify who the end user is, and that's the perspective you want to write your user story from. So we start off with as a parent. Now, the second step is to specify what they want. What solution are you offering? What is this thing that this your product or this your feature will be able to do? As a parent, I want to check on my sleeping baby without entering the room. This is what the parent wants. Anybody that buys a nanny cam, that's what they want. They want to be able to check on their sleeping baby without entering the room, so that I can know he's safe without disturbing him. That is step 3, describing the benefits. What will your user gain from using your products? As a parent, I want to check on my sleeping baby without entering the room, so that I can know that he is safe without disturbing him. That is your user story. That is really just what your user story is. So you can see how you've been able to break it down from the perspective of the user, the person that is going to be using, this product. You could say as a mother, but we use as a parent here because it could be the mother, it could be the father that could be using this nanny cam, anybody. But as a parent, the goal is simple. I want to be able to check on my sleeping baby without entering the room, so that I can know he's safe, so I can know he has not rolled over without disturbing him. Now, what is step 4, which is basically the final step in writing your agile user story? Step 4 is to add acceptance criteria. And acceptance criteria really just means what determines this story is done, right? So acceptance criteria serves two purposes, right? Number one is to tell the developers exactly how you want this feature to work or this product to work, right? So you say, for example, an alert must be sent to the phone that is connected to this nanny cam if there's motion sensed in the room. So maybe the baby turns around or the baby, tries to move in the crib. You get an alert on your phone, wherever you are, whether you're in the kitchen, whether you're in the bathroom, as long as you're with your phone, you get an alert that says motion has been detected in your baby's room. So you're able to pick it up and take a look to see, oh, my baby is crying or my baby is fussing. That is one of the acceptance criteria. So now I've been able to, break down. I have gotten some requirements from my stakeholders and I've been able to break it down so that the developers know exactly what I want them to do. They know how I want this feature to work. An alert needs to be sent to the registered phone if a problem is detected or if there's motion in the room. Now, the second use of an acceptance criteria is to help with testing. Now, when your tester is testing this particular feature, when the developer say, okay, we are done building it, and the tester wants to test, it's almost like a checklist that the tester has. The tester takes an acceptance. Okay, number one is sent to the registered smartphone. Okay, let me test this. Let me put this this camera in a room and tell my baby sister to go in the room and play. And let me see if, it's going to send an alert, if I'm going to get an alert on my phone, just to test it. And if the tester tests it and the person doesn't get an alert, you can go back to the developers to say, look, this is not working, right? I tried to do this, it's not working, and they know exactly what to fix. So I've been able to see the two uses of acceptance criteria to explain exactly what you want to the developers and to help the tester, whoever is going to be working on testing that, to have a checklist of what to test for. All right. So now just a little example before we go on to JIRA. We have said an epic is a large user story, and then we know what the user story actually is. So an example of a user story, say we are building something for students and we write the user story this way. As a college student, I would like to see the total price of my cart as I add items so I can fit my budgets. Now, for a lot of us on this call, I'm sure all 39 of us have at some point or the other, shopped online. AliExpress, Amazon, whatever it is, Temu, Jumia for my folks in Nigeria, Konga, and so on and so forth. So what this basically is saying is, as I am adding to carts, sometimes you have a budget, you have a £50 budget that you don't want to exceed, and you're shopping online. So as you're adding this item to cart, you see baby shoes, add to cart, you see, notepad, add to cart, and so on and so forth. You want to be able to see the total price. If you have £50, you want to be able to see that, oh, everything you have in your cart right now is £45, so that you know exactly when to stop shopping, right? That is a user story. That is us describing how we want, this thing to look like, this exact feature to work. So the developers know exactly, they're like, okay, so we want to see, this person wants to see a total price. Okay, we know what to do. Now you have been able to break down requirements into actionable tasks, actionable user stories for these folks to work on. All right, now we're getting to the fun part. We're going to JIRA. So I want us to take a look at this case study. All right, so I'm going to explain a scenario and then we'll go into JIRA and walk from, creating a project. So look at this scenario. A medical clinic wants to develop an online appointment booking system. The product owner has outlined a key requirement. Patients should be able to book appointments, view available time slots, and receive confirmation emails. The business analyst or the project manager has been tasked with breaking down these requirements into user stories and adding them to the product backlog in JIRA. All right. So now, step one, gathering the requirements. We have already gathered the requirements. The business analyst or the project manager has gathered the following high-level requirements from discussions with the product owner and the stakeholder. Number one, patients should be able to book an appointment online. Number two, patients should be able to see available time slots before booking. And number three, patients should receive a confirmation email. after booking. Now let's go to JIRA. So this is what your JIRA backlog looks like. So I created this, before the session because of time, but I'm going to now teach us how to create a project from scratch. All right. So now on my screen right here on the left-hand side, you can see this menu, right, on JIRA. Once you click on view all projects, it's going to show you all the projects that I have on this account, on this JIRA account. Of course, I've gone through the account creation process where you're asked to put in your email and put in a password, the normal way to create an account, right? You go to JIRA, you're asked to put in your email, put a password, and so on. Now, this shows all the projects I have on this particular account, right? And you can see at the top here, it says create projects. You can also see templates, but let's just go with create projects for now. So we want to create a new project from scratch. Okay. So we click on create projects. And then you see a lot of templates. You see project templates. Now, I want you to know that we can use JIRA for a lot of things. You can even use JIRA for your personal day-to-day life, right? As a to-do list. So you see software development, service management, product management, marketing, HR, design, finance, and so on. You can use JIRA for anything at all. All right. So, but for the sake of this presentation, we are going to choose software development. So we click on software development because what we are dealing with is, we're developing a software, an appointment booking system. Now, once you click on software development, it opens up some templates for you to use. All right. You can see Kanban, you can see Scrum, top level planning, cross-team planning, and so on and so forth. Remember what the focus for this presentation is. We're learning about the Scrum framework. So all we need to do is click on, this right here, Scrum. Once we click on Scrum, it just opens up a little overview. It tells you what the Scrum template does. It tells you how it works and so on. So you can pause and read this, of course, when you're working on the template. But what we're just going to click on is use templates right here at the bottom. You click on use templates. Then here it's going to ask you to choose a project type. We have two types of projects. We have team managed projects and company managed projects. All right, so team managed is totally free, and that's what we're going to be using for this presentation. But for company managed, this is probably what your organization is going to be using, and they have to pay for it. All right, so we're going to pick team managed for this presentation. You see, select a team managed project. So you click on this, and it asks you to add project details. So it just tells you, put in the name of your project. For example, we can call this demo class 2. And then you can see it's going to generate a key for you. So it's just going to say DC2 because demo class is long, right? So it's going to say DC2. So anywhere you see DC2, it means demo class 2. And then you just choose an access level. This is just choose any access level of choice and then click on create projects. And just like that, you have a new project on JIRA. So let's just give that some time to load. Now, before then, it's going to ask you to, bring your team with you. So if you have team members, you have their email addresses, you just add their email addresses on here. But because I don't have any team member, I'm just going to press skip. And just like that, we have our new project. So now I'm going to be looking in the chats. Did we get that, or would we like me to go over it again? And please do not forget, now we've gotten to the practical aspect of it. So if you're someone who would like to rewatch this session over and over and over again, make sure to fill the form in the chat that my colleagues have dropped. All right. So you can get the recording of this session and also, the slides that I used for this session. So let me see in the chat, do we understand how to create a new project on JIRA? SS says, got it. Gloria says, yes, I understand. Tony says, how did you get the JIRA app? So this is not an app, it is on the web. You just go on the web, go on Google and type JIRA, and then you'll be able to access it, all right? Sethlin says yes. Chantal says yes, fantastic. So we have a lot of sharp people here today. Great. So now that we know how to create a new project on JIRA, you can see the different tabs at the top of my screen here. You have summary, timeline, backlog, and so on and so forth. So this is a new project. So you can see that the backlog is empty. Everything is empty. Okay. So now we are going back to the JIRA, project that I created before. So I'm just going to click on that and we are back here. So again, this is what our backlog looks like. Now, if you remember what I said earlier, our product backlog is a list of everything that is supposed to be done on project. I've taken the liberty to just break them down. Remember the requirements we had. We want users to be able to book an appointment. We want users or patients to be able to view available time slots. And we want them to receive a confirmation email. All right, so we have three user stories here. I've done the first two, and then we are going to do the last one together, all right, just to make sure that everybody understands. So let's look at the first one, book an appointment. Now, remember, we already know the format of a user story. Now, this is the globally recognized format, whether you're in Russia, whether you're in Canada, you're in Nigeria, you're in Ghana, you're in South Africa, this is the format of a user story. As a end user, in this case, patients, I want to book an appointment online so that I can easily schedule a visit without calling the clinic. Very easy, very straight to the point, globally recognized format. All right. Now I have written out the user story for this particular, task, booking an appointment. As a patient, I want to book an appointment online so that I can easily schedule a visit without calling the clinic. Remember, I said this is the globally accepted format for writing user stories. Now, what is the acceptance criteria for this user story? Like I said, is to let the developers know exactly what I want to see, because I'm not going to do the work myself. It's like when you bring in, an artisan into your home, right? You want the person to maybe build a closet for you. You show the person a picture of what you want. I want it to look like this. I want it to be this shade of brown. I want it to be white. I want the handles to look like this, and so on and so forth. So that is exactly what the acceptance criteria is doing here. So what it means is, if they don't follow what we have here, they cannot tell me that they are done with this particular, feature. That's just what it means, or with this particular task, or with this particular user story. So the first acceptance criteria is the system should allow patients to choose a doctor or specialist if applicable. So what that means is when they log into the system, maybe they've created an account, right? And they log in, they want to book an appointment. They should be able to choose a doctor. Oh, Dr. Adex is my favorite doctor, so I want to book an appointment with Dr. Adex. So we should see a list of all the doctors or, the specialists we have in our clinic or in our hospital. And then the patient would choose the person that they want to book an appointment with. That is the first acceptance criteria. Already, this has explained to whoever is going to be working on this task what I want, how I want it to look like. Now, the next acceptance criteria says the patient can select a date and available time slot. What that means is, so where I've clicked on Dr. Adex, that's the person I want to book an appointment with. A calendar would probably pop up, and then I'll be able to choose, okay, I want to book this appointment for the 20th of June. And then you see the available time slots that Dr. Adex has. So if Dr. Adex has, other appointments on that day, maybe he already has a 12 noon appointment, he has a 1 p.m. appointment, and it's only 2 p.m. that is available. The system would show you that, 2 p.m. is available. Would you like to book 2 p.m.? And then you go ahead and book. All right. That is the second acceptance criteria. The third is the patient can enter required personal and contact information. So of course, you're trying to book an appointment. Maybe you need to put in your first and last name. You need to put in your phone number so that when you get to the clinic and you're at the counter or at the reception, you say, hi, my name is Elizabeth. I booked an appointment, and they can quickly check their system to confirm. So of course, the patient must be able to enter their personal contact information. And then once the patient clicks on submit, the appointment is saved in the system. So what I'm saying is, it's not enough for the patient to just book. We need to make sure that we are also saving it, so that when this person comes and say, hi, my name is Elizabeth, I booked an appointment, we are able to find it on our system. It's not that it just goes up in the air. All right, that is another acceptance criteria. And finally, last but not the least, I say the user sees a success message confirming the appointment has been booked. So you just see a message that says appointment booking successful, just to know that, okay, it actually went through. I've been able to book my appointment. So that is what I have as the acceptance criteria for this particular user story. So let me look in the chat. I want to know if I have people following me. If we are confused, if you'd like me to go over it again. So Adedayo says, so the hospital can access the patient's details at the back end. Exactly. 100%. So now that's why that acceptance criteria is there. So the patient must be able to enter their contact information. And then once they submit, the appointment is saved. So the hospital or the clinic on the back end, on their own administrative end, they're able to see the name of this patient and see that, oh, Dr. Adex, somebody has booked you for 1 p.m., on the 20th of June. All right. So do we have any questions so far? Feel free to ask your questions in the chat. I'm looking in the chat box right now. Before I move on, I need to make sure that everybody understands. All right. Now, if you want us to go into the nitty-gritty of this, you would have to, register for a course, all right? Whether it's a business analyst course or a project management course, all right? You will need to register for that to also get deep into JIRA. But this is pretty surface level, all right? So I don't see any questions in the chat. That means everybody understands. So now let's move to the second one. The second one says view available time slots. So again, I've done this one. I'll walk us through it. And then the last one, we're going to do it together on this call. So this is the second user story. You can see that it followed the same format as the first one. As a patient, I want to view all available time slots before booking so that I can choose a convenient appointment time. Now, what this is telling the developer is that, our patients want to be able to see, I want to book Dr. Adex. I want to see all the time slots that I have. So if I see that, 5 p.m. is free, 1 p.m. is free, 2 p.m. is free, I can choose the one that is convenient for me. So I don't have to guess. I want to see all the free time slots and then, choose a convenient appointment time for myself and book it. That's what this user story is saying. And the acceptance criteria is number one, the system displays a calendar or a time slot list with only available options. So if someone has booked, for example, let me check the names of the people we have on this session. So if Adedayo, for example, has already booked 1 p.m. with Dr. Adex, right? And then, Betty wants to also book 1 p.m. The system would not show Betty 1 p.m. because 1 p.m. is no longer available. The system is going to show Betty 2 p.m. instead or 3 p.m. So the calendar should only show available options or available slots so that these people can book. That is the first acceptance criteria. Now, the second one says time slots should be updated in real time to reflect availability. What that means is if you're in your house right now, you're trying to book, a time slot, and someone else, Chantel is in her house and she just booked 1 p.m. Immediately she books 1 p.m., it should go off on my own computer screen. I should no longer be able to see 1 p.m. It is reflecting in real time. So to also avoid double booking, right? Chantel has booked 1 p.m. and then I also book 1 p.m. And then we get there and Dr. Alex is like, I only saw Chantel. And then you're arguing that, no, I booked 1 p.m., and it just leads to a lot of confusion. So we're trying to make sure that these time slots are updated in real time, immediately. Immediately somebody books for, a particular time slot, is no longer available on the calendar. Now, number three, patients cannot select already booked or past time slots. So you can't, today is the 18th, you can't book an appointment for the 16th of June. It's not possible. All right. So now I'm saying it so that the developers don't just put a calendar there and then somebody will mistakenly book an appointment for the 15th of June and then come on the 20th and say, I book an appointment and start arguing, right? We want to make sure that any dates that has passed or any time that has passed, if you're trying to book an appointment by 1 p.m., you should not be able to book an appointment for 10 a.m. that same day. That's what it means. And then finally, if no slots are available for a day, that day should be grayed out or marked as unavailable. So for all of us that have shopped online before, maybe you're trying to buy something, you're trying to buy active wear, you're trying to buy a shirt, a dress on maybe Amazon, for example. Now you see boxes at the bottom of that, that dress to see the available sizes. Sometimes you see small, medium, large, extra large, and so on and so forth. And you see that one of them is grayed out, meaning maybe small is gray and the rest they're orange. What that means is small is no longer available, it's sold out. Right. So that's the same thing we're trying to replicate here. If a day is, full, it should be grayed out so they can see it and know that, oh, Dr. Adex is not going to be available on this day because maybe he has a full calendar or maybe he's not working on that day. So now whoever is going to work on this, you see how I took the requirements that that was given to me, right? I've taken these requirements and I've been able to break it down for the developers to actually work on. Okay, now whoever is going to work on this particular task, they know exactly what I want them to do. They know how this system should look like. And when the tester is also testing, the tester knows everything that it should be on the lookout for to make sure that, oh, this system does this. This system displays a calendar. The time is updated in real time. And so on and so forth. Now, do we have questions before we move on to the last one? I'm looking in the chats. Josiah says, I am enjoying the class, but I need to join another class with Ubong. Please, I will appreciate getting the recorded class. No worries, just make sure to fill the attendance form that my colleague has dropped, in the chat. All right, so fantastic. Olu says, then the acceptance criteria and the test case must be in alignment 100%. So it's even from your acceptance criteria that the tester is able to come up with a test case. I don't want to get too technical because, of course, there will be some people that are beginners here, but your tester actually uses your acceptance criteria as a guide. All right. So great. Now we are going to move to the last one and we are going to work on it together. The last one says, receive confirmation email. Now I want us to try in the chat. I want everyone on this call, let's try to come up with the user story for this particular task. So you have seen what it says, receive confirmation email. You already know the formats for writing user stories. So I want to see us try. Let's try. I'm looking in the chats. Let me see. Gloria says thanks, but I will need to join a drop-in session. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gloria. Just make sure to fill the attendance form. Now, for others on the call, I want us to try to come up with a user story for this particular task. Let's do it together. Let's hurry up. All right, so just try. There are no wrong answers. We are all here to learn. You know the format. As a patient, I want to XYZ so that I can XYZ. So who is going to take a stab at it? It's very quiet in the chat box. It's very quiet in the chat box. Adex says, oh, Adex, that is not a user story. Remember, we have talked about the format. As a patient, I want to, so that I can. So that's how you have to write it. If you just say get email notifications, that is not a user story. Your developers are going to ask you, I don't understand, who is getting the email notification? Am I getting the email notification? Is it you that is going to get the email notification? So you see, that's what we mean by poorly defined requirements. It's going to be confusing. All right. So Tony says, as a patient, I want to receive email or SMS to confirm my appointment. Wonderful. Adedayo says, as a patient, I must be able to receive a confirmation email. If it says, as a patient, I want to receive a confirmation email so that I can tell if my appointment is successful. Wonderful. That is the exact format. As a patient, I want to receive a confirmation email so that I can tell if my booking is successful. Okay, so let me put that in here. As a patient, I want to receive a confirmation email so that I can tell if my booking is successful. All right. Now, whoever is going to work on this knows exactly who is supposed to be receiving the notification. It's not Elizabeth that is going to receive the notification. The patient has to receive the notification. This is what our patient wants. So very well done. That was a fee. So I see other trials. I see Yinka. Yinka says, as a patient, I want to get appointment time slots. No. Ade says, as a patient, I want to receive a confirmation email so I can know my appointment is confirmed. Wonderful. Patients, as a patient, I want to receive a confirmation email so I can be certain my booking is successful. Fantastic. So I can see that we all understand. So it follows a specific format. As a patient, I want to receive a confirmation email so that I can tell if my booking is successful. All right. So now let's go on to the acceptance criteria. Let's do the acceptance criteria together. All right. Acceptance criteria. So I want us to start thinking, what are some of the things that we would, how do we want this feature to work? What do we want it to look like? Remember how the acceptance criteria for the other, tasks look like. So what do we want this to look like? Let's speed this up. Anyone? What should your acceptance criteria look like? So I am going to start, all right? So the first one should be the system sends, an email to the registered email address or the patient's provided email address, because remember, the patient is going to be putting in their contact details, right? So let's say the system sends an email to the patient's provided email address. We could also say, the system sends an SMS. So maybe the patient did not provide an email address, but they provided a number. The system sends an SMS. So the patient's provided phone number. If email was not provided. All right. So now let me see. Yinka says the system sends the appointment details to the provided contact details. Fantastic. The system sends the appointment details. So we can decide to now flesh that out and say what should be there. It should be the name of the doctor, Dr. Adex, the time, the dates, and so on and so forth, right? So we say the system sends the appointment details to the provided contact details. And contact details is wonderful because whether it's SMS or email, just make sure to send the appointment details. Fantastic. The system notified the patient of the available slots. That's ADEX. Well, Alex, you would have been right if we were under the second one, which was view available slots. But now we are under receive confirmation email. So think about things that needs to happen for someone to receive a confirmation email. And I think we have covered it, right? We have been able to cover it. So this is what should happen. Now, there's one last thing that we didn't take into consideration. We can say if the patient cancels, sometimes you book an appointment and later you want to cancel your appointment, the system should also send an email to let the patient know that, your appointment has been canceled, or it could be an on-screen notification, right? To let them know if cancellation happens. And then, and they get an email, maybe they try to reschedule and say, oh, you know what, I wanted to book on the 20th before, but let me book on the 21st. So they are able to get the details for, the new appointment in their email. So let's start it with if cancellation happens. If cancellation or rescheduling happens, the system sends the new appointment details to the provided details, provided contact details. So very easy and straight to the point. Now, the system should allow the patient to be able to edit any appointments. Thank you. Now, that's a fantastic one, Tony. That's another one. So being able to edit so that maybe you can decide if you want to reschedule, right? And then once you reschedule, you get a confirmation email in your, maybe in your mailbox or as an SMS. So that is just it about, we could go on and on. There are a lot of different, acceptance criteria we could think about, but let's just stick with this four. So that's just what it means, when it comes to making sure that you're breaking down requirements for your developers to work on. Now, whoever sees this task knows exactly what you're asking them to do, right? They might just ask you, is there a template? Like maybe what type of email? How do you want the email to look like? But they know exactly what they need to do. They need to set up a way for the system to send this email. Now, they might ask you to provide the content of the email that, hi, first name, or hi, Fred, your appointment for 21st of June was canceled and rescheduled, whatever the content is. That might be what they will ask you for, but they understand basically surface level exactly what you want them to do. And this is how we break requirements as a business analyst or as a project manager, for the developers to work on. So the fact that a lot of people tried to answer all of this just shows that, we actually understand what needs to happen, when it comes to breaking down requirements. So very quickly, before we move on with this session, I also want to show us how to create an epic. All right, so at the top of the screen here, you see create. You want to click on create. Now it's going to ask you what type of tickets, because that's what it's called on JIRA. What type of tickets do you want to create? Are you creating a new story? Are you creating a new task, a new bug, or a new epic? Now remember what we called epic, the large body of work. So I click on epic and say, I want to create an epic. So you see that it changed to epic. And then I just write the name of the epic. So I call it appointments booking functionality. That's the name of my epic, appointment booking functionality. You can scroll down, you can choose the color for the epic. Let's change the color. Let's choose orange, right? And that's that. So what we just want to do, we want to click on create. Now it's going to tell you, you're going to see a notification that says your epic has been created. You see it right here. And then when you want to link your tasks to an epic, all you need to do is, you see this plus sign, it says add epic. So it's just going to show you the epics that you already have, appointment booking functionality. What that means is all these tasks, all these features, all these user stories are under this epic, right? Appointment booking functionality. And then remember, this is our product backlog. So now we want to move things from the product backlog into the sprint backlog. We want to say, out of these 3 tasks, we're only going to be able to do 2. So what we just need to do is just drag it up, right? We pick the 2 we want to do, and then we drag it up. And that's that. So this is our sprint backlog, and this is our products backlog. And from here, we can decide to start our sprints. So it just asks you, put the name of the sprint, the duration, etc. And then you click on start. It says sprint started. We'll filter the board to show your new sprint. Good luck, team. So this is what you have. And then, of course, if you have your people, your team members on this board, you have assigned the task to them. So if I assign this task to ADEX, for example, once ADEX starts working on it, it moves it from to do to in progress. And then I'm able to see that, ADEX has started working on this. Book appointment, I assign that to Betty, and Betty moves it from to do to in progress as well. I'm able to see that Betty has started working on it, and so on and so forth. So once this task is done, it can be moved to done as well. You just have to drag it. It's just drag and drop. You drag it to done, and that's that about that. So it's very simple, very, very simple, all right? So if you have stayed with me up until this point, we're going back to our slides now. we have been able to complete our little case study in, under 30 minutes. So now I want us to put in the chats. I know we have, people that are interested in one of these two career paths on this call. So I want to see in the chats. Are you interested in becoming a business analyst or a PM? So just put BA or put PM in the chats. Let's see who is winning today. Pretty Damsel says BA. Fantastic. Who else? Fred, BA. Fred says both. Fred, you can only choose one. Adex says BA, Stephanie BA, Card BA. Wow. Do we have any PMs in the house? I'm hurt. Do we have any PMs in the house? Okay, thank you, Fred. Fred has pitied me and just told me that he wants to be a PM. All right, but it looks like the business analysts are winning today. Okay, so I'm glad that, a lot of us here already know what it is that we want to do. But for others that don't know, don't worry, just stick around with me till the end of the session. We're almost done, and then I'll be able to help you narrow it down as well. So now, what are the tech skills to learn and get a job quickly? A lot of us, even the people that have identified that they want to do project management or they want to do business analysis on here, we're worried about, how possible it is for us to actually get jobs on time. All right. And now, here at Analytics, we offer 8 programs. If you had started the session with me, when I was talking about the 8 programs that we offer, exactly, what we offer. But how exactly did we come about offering just these 8 programs? Because again, if you do your research when it comes to tech, there are 1,000,001 different career paths that you can take, right? There are a lot of programs that we could offer, but why do we offer only 8? And I'll tell you why, right? So every year here at Analytics, what we do is we scrape different job boards. Now I'm talking LinkedIn, I'm talking Monster, Google Jobs, CV Library, Total Jobs, Glassdoor, and so on and so forth. So we scrape all these different job boards for the highest occurring listings. What this means is we want to see, so for example, we check in 2024, at the end of 2024, and we see that, for the entire 2024, there were about 50,000 listings for a business analyst in Canada, for example. So what that means is, they're really looking for business analysts in Canada. We're able to find out the jobs that have the highest recurring listings, and we're able to pick up on those ones to say, okay, so these are the jobs that are actually in high demand. And we looked at the different regions. Okay, we looked at the US, we looked at the UK, and we also looked at Canada. Now, after picking all of these job posts, we now carried out an internal data analysis. All right, now we measured all of these jobs, different jobs, because we got a lot of them. All right, so we needed to understand, we needed to, measure them, against these different criteria, right? The first one is ease of learning. The second is ease of transitioning. And finally, we have high rewarding salary. So let's start with ease of learning. We said, okay, so now we have seen all the jobs that are, in high demand. How easy is it to learn the skills that you need to learn for this job? Is it something you can learn in 6 months? Is it something you can learn in 3 months? Is it something you can learn in 4 months? How easy is it to learn? Because again, we have adults, that have already gone through, we've passed through the class phase. Personally, I haven't been in the classroom in years, all right, in a physical classroom, back in uni and all of that good stuff. So there are a lot of people like myself on here that, you left university a long time ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and you've been working. Well, now you're trying to transition into tech. So how easy is it for someone like you that, is no longer a spring chicken, you are not in the university or in high school anymore? How is it easy to pick up the skills that you need to have to learn this job? All right, now I will give you an example. One of the jobs that we saw that is in very high demand across these 3 different regions is, robotics engineering. Very high demand. They're looking for them, but we don't offer robotics engineering. Why? Is it easy to learn this? Because can you become a robotics engineer in 6 months? The answer is no, right? To learn robotics engineering, you need at least 18 months. And it also has some prerequisites, knowledge that you need to have before you can get into that. So you can't get into robotics engineering as an absolute beginner. So you see already from the first criterion, we have taken out robotics engineering totally. ease of learning, it has failed to pass that test. Now, the second one is ease of transitioning. So how easy is it for you to move from what you're currently doing into this new field in tech? Right? Are you a teacher right now? Are you, someone who manages teams? Are you someone who has been working in customer service, for example? How easy is it for you to move from that, that field and move into this new field that you're going to? What are some of the skills that you must have picked up over the years that you can also apply in this job so that you not only settle into this new job easily, but you also thrive in it? And finally, last but not the least, we have high rewarding salary. That's why a lot of us are here today, because of tech money. So we also say, okay, yes, these jobs are in high demand, but do they pay well? What is the salary like? Right? That is the last criterion we use to, analyze these different jobs. And after doing that, we were able to come up with those 8 programs that we offer. I'm not going to, go into the 8 of them because our focus tonight is business analysis and agile project management. But we didn't stop there, because and a lot of times when you cook something, it tastes sweet to you. You need to ask someone else to come and taste it to see if the salt is enough. So what we decided to do was we decided to seek external validation. We said, we've done our internal analysis, but let's make sure we are not being biased. Okay, let's look at what people are saying out there to make sure that we are correct. And that was how we found the World Economic Forum reports. So this is a report that is available on the web. And remember, don't forget to fill out the form that my colleagues have been dropping in the chat. So once you can do that, right, you have access to it. The World Economic Forum is also linked on this slide, so you can just quickly access it and take a look at it for yourself. Now, the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report for 2025 says that a lot of jobs will be created and a lot of jobs will be lost. Now, in the next 5 years, meaning by 2030, about 170 million jobs will be created, while 92 million jobs will disappear. All right, so you can look at the snapshot I have here on my screen. You have different boxes. You have some boxes destroyed. Stable jobs, and you have the green. These are the new jobs that will come up. Those are the new jobs that will be created in the next 5 years. So if you are here in the red boxes, if you find yourself in the red team, you want to find a way to port to this blue one, or better still to the green one, so you can be assured of job stability. All right. Now, what are the in-demand career paths? The World Economic Forum also highlighted project managers, and not just project managers, but agile project managers and also business analysts as jobs that are in demand, as jobs that are stable. So you know that whether you're an agile project manager or you want to become a business analyst, this is something that, AI is not taking over from you. All right. In the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, you are guaranteed job stability, because I know a lot of people are scared. Oh, I heard AI is coming to take our jobs. Now, these are the jobs that are safe. Now, you see these jobs on the right-hand side. These are the jobs that are not safe. Okay, but I'm not going to go into that. Just make sure that you fill the attendance form so you can have access to this resource and you can download these reports. Now let's take a look at some success stories. There's something we always say here at Analytics: it always seems impossible until it is done. I know a lot of people on this call are probably wondering, I've been working in customer care for the past 10 years, and Elizabeth is here telling me that it's very easy for me to become a business analyst. How possible is it? I don't have any experience. I have zero knowledge in tech. Now, I want to let you know that these people have done it, and so can you. Again, we have all of these videos where you see real people actually share their experiences linked to this slide. So once you fill the attendance form, you have access to all of these resources, and you can take your time and watch it and hear what these people have to say. Take Lois, for example. Lois was an accountant and a procurement specialist, and she had zero experience in tech. Now, it's very important for you to highlight that. Lois had zero experience in tech, and she joined our business analysis training program. And afterwards, she was able to secure a job as a business analyst in the UK after completing the training, leveraging all the things that she learned in that training. Now let's look at Ngozi. Ngozi also, had a background in customer service and HR before she joined our business analysis training program. And upon completion, she got a job as a business analyst in the and she works remotely. She works from home. You can see her happily take a picture from her workspace to let you know that she works from home. Now, there are a lot of them. There's so many more. In fact, if it comes to success stories, we have session 4 hours just talking about success stories. So we don't have that time. I don't want to keep us here for longer than necessary. So just make sure you fill the attendance form and you have access to all of this so you can watch it and hear what all of the wonderful people have to say. Now, if it happened to them, it can happen to you. You don't have two heads. All right. They don't have two heads. All right. So who is an agile project manager? Now, an agile project manager is a servant leader who helps the team work effectively within an agile framework. So remember, whether you're an agile project manager or you're a business analyst, you're not the person doing the actual work, but you are leading the team. You're making sure you're helping the team to work effectively within that agile framework, ensuring that the project, delivers value to the customers. Now, let's take a look at just a very short example. All right, we have two different methodologies, actually more than two, but I'm just going to be talking about two now. We'll talk about traditional project management, and we'll talk about the agile application that is just right to enhance your right. If you decide to go the waterfall project management process, it might take you 7 months to build this application, because the way waterfall works is you have to finish everything. So you have to finish the entire requirement gathering process before you move on to the design process. You have to finish the entire design process before you move on to the implementation, and so on and so forth. It's going to take you 7 months. However, if you decide to do the same exact thing using the agile methodology, it's probably going to take you less than 7 months, actually, right? It's going to take you less than 7 months. It's going to take you maybe a month, because agile, you are able to break it down into different features, and you can ship these features. So you can say, you know what, let's quickly build these first 3 features and put it out there in the market. And while our users are using it to keep building, we'll use WhatsApp as a typical example. Years back when WhatsApp started, we were not able to do video calls. We didn't have AI on WhatsApp. You were not able to upload status and so on and so forth. But you started using WhatsApp, and maybe a month later, 2 months later, there's a new feature. While we're using WhatsApp, the WhatsApp team right now on this session, while we're talking, the WhatsApp team, they are brainstorming on new features that they can add to the product, enhance, customer engagement. So that is how the agile process works. You're able to ship your value bit by bit, incrementally, instead of waiting till you're done with the entire thing. It might take you 2 years, it might take you 1 year. All right. Now, one of the things that you are going to be learning as a project manager, an agile project manager here at Analytics. All right, we're going to start off with introduction to project management methodologies and structure. All right, so what are the different project management methodologies? Like the waterfall methodology, the agile methodology, the hybrid methodology. What are these different methodologies, and what is the project management structure? So what is the project life cycle from your initiation phase to your planning phase to your execution phase to monitoring and control, and finally the project closure phase? All right, and then we move on to project management skills and communication. So what are some of the skills that you need to have as a project manager, right? What are some of the things you need to know how to do, and how are you able to communicate effectively with your stakeholders, whether it is, your project team, whether it's a project sponsor, whether it's the end user? How do you communicate effectively? And then we talk about the foundations of Agile and Scrum. So you see this little short course we had here today. We're now going to do a deep dive into it for you to understand end to end what the Scrum framework is, end to end what the Kanban framework is, what the agile methodologies are, what are the different frameworks that we have under the agile methodology. So you have your increments, your sprint backlog, your product backlog. We go into advanced Scrum and agile practices, your user stories, estimation. There are a lot of things that we didn't cover today. We barely scratched the surface today. There's so many things that you still need to learn. And then we talk about end-to-end use of JIRA and Confluence in projects. So you're going to learn how to use JIRA from scratch, from beginning to end. You're going to learn how to use Trello from beginning to end. You're going to learn how to use Conference for project documentation from beginning to end. And then we talk about Kanban boards for workflow management. So just as we go end to end for the Scrum framework, we're also going to look at the Kanban framework end to end as well. And then we look at agile metrics and reporting. So this is how you're able to check the health of your project, all right, to make sure that, oh, this project is actually on track, or we are behind schedule, or we are ahead of schedule. These are metrics that you generate on JIRA. We're also going to teach you how you can generate reports on JIRA, what these different metrics mean, like your lead time, your cycle time, your velocity, your burn up chart, burn down chart, and so on and so forth. And then leadership and real world application. Now, every single thing you learn here at Analytics, whether as a project manager or as a business analyst, you're going to be working on projects. Look at this little case study we worked on in this session today. So we have advanced one. This was just, the tip of the iceberg. We have advanced ones that we work on in class. So every single thing you are learning them using projects. So you're not just reading textbooks, but you're learning how to actually practicalize everything that you're learning. And if you're also someone that is looking to take professional certifications, this program will also help you to prepare for that. So maybe your Prince 2, your PMP, your CAPM, your PSM, CSM, and so on and so forth. All of those professional certifications, this program helps you to prepare for that. Now, for the learning timeline, we have 8 months. So 6 months of learning and then 2 months of internship. So you're going to spend 6 months learning, with us, and then we move you into our partner company where you have your 2 months of internship. So keep putting your questions in the chat. I will explain, attend to all these questions once I'm done explaining that. So just put them in the chat. I'll be back. All right. I can see the questions from Fred, Bajo, and so on and so forth. All right. So I see me just joining. Sorry, I'm just joining. Did you cover how to gather requirements already? Yes, I did. So me, I don't know what your name is, but please make sure to fill the attendance form so you can have the recording of this session. My colleague is going to drop the attendance form in the chat for you once again. All right, now for the learning timeline, it's different for both business analysis and project management, and the learning structure, right? We have live classes, 2 live classes in a month. All right, not 2 live sessions. You have a lot of live sessions, but you have 2 live classes in a month. 2 Saturdays out of 4 Saturdays in a month, you have a live class. So what that means is maybe you have a live class this Saturday, you don't have a live class next Saturday, and you have another live class the coming Saturday. What that helps to do is to make it flexible. We understand that people are working, people have a lot, some of us here have kids, you're taking care of your kids. So you can't be going to, attending lectures back to back, and that is okay. All right. Now, even the live sessions, if for any reason you miss it, any reason at all, you have the recording of that session, just like the recording, the way we're recording this particular session happening now, you have the recording of your live class that you can watch back. You have your class materials made available for you. Now, we also have other live sessions that happen, like your drop-in session that happens twice in a week. So the drop-in session is a live session such as this, but it's different because this time around, you're able to raise up your hand and ask questions. All right, you don't have to stay muted. So you come to your drop-in sessions that happen 2 times a week, to ask questions. Oh, I was working on this project you gave us in class. I was, studying, and I came across this and I don't understand. Can you please explain? Can you please go over it again? And if you're working on Trello, you're trying to create maybe you're trying to create a new project on JIRA, you're not getting it. You can come to the live session, share your screen and show your facilitator that this is what I'm struggling with. And that person provides guidance for you. So you see that aside the live classes, you also have this drop-in session. Now it's also a live session. It's part of your learning. Okay, just to make sure that everybody is fully immersed in the learning. And the live sessions, the drop-in sessions that happen 2 times a week are also recorded as well. And then finally, we have the self-paced learning. So we have an LMS. For people that were asking what an LMS is, we do have a learning management system, all right, that you'll be added to upon registration. And then we have pre-recorded videos there. So if you can't, if you can't join all the live classes, you also have, videos that you can watch and learn from. Sit down, you can, when you're doing the dishes, you can watch the videos. When you're on your way to work, you can just plug in your earphones and watch the videos on the train and so on and so forth. And if you have any questions, you can write it down, because you'll be added to a closed WhatsApp group chat with your facilitator. So if you have questions, you can just put it on WhatsApp, tag your facilitator and say, hi, Elizabeth, I was watching my video just now, and you mentioned something I don't understand. Please, can you explain? Or if you don't want to do it on WhatsApp, you can write it down and bring it to the drop-in session that happens twice a week. So this structure is the same for both business analysis and project manager. Okay? So there are a lot of different careers that you can start upon completing this program as a project manager. You can become a Scrum Master, you can become a Scrum Team Facilitator, you can become a Lean Agile Coach, you can become an Agile Project Manager, a Project Coordinator, and so much more. All right, so you're not just boxed into, project management. You can do anything. There are so many of them that you can start. So now let's go into business analysis. I know that's what almost everybody here is, interested in. All right, so now we have also established that, the role of a business analyst, is similar to that of a project manager, in the sense that you are also going to act as the bridge. You are the person, gathering requirements from stakeholders and translating them to the technical teams, just like we did on JIRA. All right, now every business analyst goes into businesses or organizations to optimize their processes, to make how things are currently working better for that organization. All right, so I'll use an example of, the banking sector, because I can see I have a lot of Yoruba names, Igbo names, so indigenous names. So I know that, I have people from Nigeria, though we are now all over the world. We have people here in the UK, we have some in Canada. Well, at the end of the day, we were in Nigeria at some point in our lives. All right, so now, the banking sector back in Nigeria, maybe in 2008, back then, we didn't have ATM machines, we didn't have mobile banking applications. Every single thing you had to go into the bank, join a very long queue. I'm sure a lot of the people here can remember how that process worked, right? Sometimes you spend hours in the bank. And, a business analyst went into that organization and looked at how they can make the processes better. Of course, they did that by gathering requirements, okay? How can we make this process better? And that's why, as time went on, instead of just going into the bank and joining a long queue, you have a personnel that is standing at the door of that bank. So once you walk in, they say, how may we help you today? And when you say, I'd like to make a deposit, they direct you to an empty table to pick up a form and fill that form. So after filling the form, you can then join the queue. Initially, you would have joined it just to get that form, but they made the process better. And as time went on, we got ATM machines, we got mobile banking apps. This is the work of a business analyst, all right? And you do this by gathering requirements and translating them to the technical guys that are going to work on these different, things. Now, what are the things you're going to be learning as a business analyst? Business analysis is quite versatile, all right? So you'll be learning data tools. You have Excel, Power BI, and SQL. Because you also need to understand surface level, how to work with data, how to deal with data. So you're going to learn everything, and it's from scratch. You learn Excel from scratch, you learn Power BI from scratch, and you learn SQL from scratch. And then you learn process mapping, how to map out processes using tools like Lucidchart and Draw.io. You also learn project initiation planning and Scrum for projects. So what happened here is we borrowed Excel, Power BI, and SQL from the data analytics program. And we also borrowed project initiation planning and Agile and Scrum for projects from the project management program. All right, so the business analysis is like 3 in 1. You have business analysis, you have data analytics, and then you have project management in this one program. All right, and then from numbers 5 to 9, you have software development lifecycle, so just to help you get, understand technicalities. So in as much as you're not going to be writing code, you just need to understand a bit, so that, when you're speaking to your developers, it's not as if they're speaking Latin. You understand exactly what it takes, to build the software. You understand the life cycle. You understand how to, elicit requirements. What are the fundamentals of requirements, right? You do a deep dive into requirements gathering. Then we move on to stakeholder analysis and engagement. So how do you engage your different stakeholders? How do you analyze your stakeholders? You'll be taught that as well. And finally, ChatGPT for business analysis. So what are the tools that you'll be learning in this program? You'll be learning Excel, SQL, Power BI, Lucy Chat, Draw.io, JIRA software, Confluence, Trello, Azure DevOps, and finally, ChatGPT. Okay, so these are all the tools you'll be learning. And as usual, the learning timeline and also the learning structure is the same as explained earlier. All right. Now, what are the different careers that you can get into as a business analyst upon completion of this program? You can actually work as a data analyst because remember, you learned data tools. All right. You learned data tools like Excel, Power BI, and SQL. You can work as a project manager because you'll be learning the agile methodologies and Scrum, and also project initiation and planning. You can work as a process automation analyst, a business process analyst, business systems analyst, process improvement analyst, IT business analyst, and so on and so forth, right? The possibilities are endless. And all our programs come with internship to make your CV and your portfolio stand out. All right, this is just a sneak peek into one of the portfolios that one of our participants have built. I'm not going to open it on this call. Make sure to fill the attendance form so you can have access. And once you get the slide, you just come to this slide and click on the video, see the portfolio. Now, is it enough to just know how to use all of these tools? It is not. You also need to have employability skills because that is how we believe you'll be able to get a job. What are your employability skills? That is what helps you to stand out. Your technical skills alone cannot get you the job, and that is just the truth. So employability skills like we're going to teach you how to fit multiple roles, right? Teach you how to LinkedIn, to position yourself on LinkedIn to paying jobs so that recruiters to reach out to you on LinkedIn, have a conversation with you, not apply for a job in years because people reach out to me on LinkedIn, companies reach out to me on LinkedIn. How can that be you? All right, you are going to learn how to optimize your LinkedIn. You're going to learn, navigating the job market. We bring professionals back to them to speak to you. What are the tips that you need? People that have gone through this program, people that have taken the business analysis program, for example, and have landed jobs, real people. So it's not just testimonials, and they come back to the class and tell you, hey, I took this program last year and I'm working right now. I'm earning 6 figures. This is what I did. Giving you that when you to the job market, you know exactly how to know. We also offer interview preparatory sessions. So we help to prep you for apply for jobs, and then you get invited for an interview. We're going to help to prep you for that. Now, if you also get a job offer, you need your reference or recommendation letter. We're going to also provide that to you. We provide on-the-job support as well. Once you get a job, you get some tasks, your leg is still a bit shaky, you don't know how to go about it, you can always come back to us and let us know, and we have a one-on-one session with you to provide guidance on how you can go about that particular task that you got on your job. And then we have weekly mentorship sessions, like the name implies, it happens every week. And when you're breaking into a new space that you don't have experience in. So someone in the chat said, most of us are new to this BA. You need somebody to hold your hand. You need a mentor, and you get that weekly. And finally, last but not the least, you have the Upwork optimization session. So for people that are interested in using Upwork to land jobs, we'll also teach you how you can optimize your Upwork profile as well. So as usual, there are a lot of success stories that I can't get into right now. So once you get the slides, you'll just be able to access these success stories. Now, our next class starts on the 5th of July, all right? If you've been listening to me from the beginning up until this very moment and you're interested in kickstarting your career as a business analyst or as a project manager, the time is now. All right, the next class is starting on the 5th of July. And I saw a question earlier about a discount. So not to worry. This is just for the people that stayed with me. I know some people have dropped off. They have missed off on this information. So we have a discount currently running. But this discount, here's the catch, it is slot-based. It is not time-based. So for the first 20 people, we have an almost 20% discount running. So for all our programs, both, agile project management and business analysis, the program is initially priced at $900, but the first 20 people get to pay $750 instead. And there is also an installmental plan. So you don't have to pay all of that at once. You can split your payment for as many as 5 months. So you also have the link here. Once you get the slide, you click on it, but I'm just going to show you what it looks like, right? So once you click on that link, this is what it takes you to. It takes you straight to the Analytics Enrollment Center. And what you want to do here is let's just give it some time to come up. You just scroll down. You have all the information that you need. You see when the next class is starting. Just scroll down and identify the program you're going for, whether it's Agile Project Management or is Business Analysis. And you click on Register for Business Analysis. So once you do that, it opens up the payment structure for you. All right. If you click on Register for Business Analysis, it opens up the payment structure for you and you are able to pay in any currency. So you don't have to worry about how you convert your money from USD, from your local currency to USD. You can pay in any currency of choice, whether it's in Naira, whether it's in pounds, whether it's in CAD. All this site just does is it's immediately, shows you the equivalent in Canadian dollars. All right. If it's in pounds, it shows you the equivalent in pounds as well. And you're able to see the payment structure, right? And then pick any of these plans that fits what you want to do. So, I want to pay once, you can pick the one-time payment, or if you want to pay 2 times, pick the 2 monthly payments. If you want to pay 3 times, 4 times, or 5 times, you are able to pick from here and just secure your spot. Now, remember, I said this discount, wow. When I started this presentation, we had 17 seats. What this means is 4 people have made payments while I was on this call. So what it means is this discount is not time-based. I can't tell you that the discount is going to end on the 20th of June, on the 3rd of June. I can tell you is 13 people make payments. The discount is over. We have more than 13 people on this call right now. If 13 of you make payments tonight, this discount ends tonight, and then the price goes back to $900. So there's a $150 difference, and that is something that I want us to take note of. So it's really just first come, first serve. And it's okay if you're not sure yet if you want to do business analysis or project management. You can actually secure your spot and then choose to speak to a professional. If you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation with myself or one of my colleagues, that is 100% fine. Just make sure to secure your spot and choose to speak to a professional. And then we'll have a one-on-one discussion with you to make sure business analysis is the best path for you. And if not, we'll move you into project management. So if you need to have a one-on-one conversation, just make sure to secure your spot first. I can see my colleague have dropped, the link to securing your spot. So make sure you don't miss out on that. Now we have come to the end of the session, but I'm just going to look in the chat and answer some of your questions. So for Fred, we said we want discounts on the BA program. I'm sure you have been able to see the discount that we have available. And now I want you to hurry up because we only have 13 seats left. Okay, just make sure, secure your spots. You can pay as low as £123 if you are in the UK and secure your spots to start in July, start in the next class. All right, Bajo says, is Agile best suited for tech? It appears that Waterfall still suits sectors like traditional construction. Fantastic. So, when I talked about the project management methodologies earlier, I mentioned how we're going to introduce you to the different methodologies. So in as much as this program is called the Agile Project Management, you're also going to learn Waterfall and you're going to learn hybrid. So you learn Waterfall, methodology and hybrid methodology. So wherever it is that you find yourself, whether you're using the Waterfall methodology or you're using the hybrid methodology, you know what to do. All right. So now let's see if I have more questions in the chat. If you have questions, put it in the chat box. I'm answering questions right now. All right. So I just want to make sure I get, so may I ask who performs the tasks you perform online? Is it a PM or a BA? Sorry, I joined quite late and missed out on a chunk of presentation. That is from Yinka. And Yinka, please make sure to fill the attendance form so you have access to the recording of this session. All right. Now, the tasks that I performed on JIRA can either be done by a business analyst or a project manager, which is why we're here today. So like I said earlier, just make sure to secure your spot, all right? 13 people is not a lot of people. 13 seats is not a lot. We can have 13 people make payment tonight. And then if you postpone, securing your spot, by the time you come, maybe next week, you find out that the discount is over and you have missed out on it. So make sure to secure your spot and I will see you in class for July, all right? So if you also need to have a one-on-one discussion with me, that is okay as well. Just secure your spot and, indicate that you would like to speak to a professional and we will be happy to have you. All right. So we don't have any more questions in the chat. I'm guessing people would like to have a one-on-one discussion to, get a more personalized response to their questions. And just make sure to secure your spot. All right. So if you secure your spot, I will see you in class next month. Thank you so much for joining the session. The session has come to an end. Please enjoy the rest of your day and bye for now.